I'm going to destroy you in court, Ethan. Half of everything you've built will be mine by Christmas." She smiled like it was a joke when she said it. Then she kissed me on the cheek, looked at her lawyer, and signed the papers with a smile so calm it felt violent. Have you ever trusted someone so completely that their betrayal hit you like a physical blow? What would you have done if the person who promised forever planned your ruin with a shopping cart full of lies? I'll never forget the courtroom that afternoon. Her mascara streaking down her face, her hand twisting a tissue, crying so convincingly that half the room leaned forward. "We're so sorry," she told the judge through tears. "He used me. I have nothing." She had that look that makes strangers hand over sympathy like cash. Little did they know, she already had $2 million in Hermes boxes hidden in storage units across town. My name is Ethan Cole. I was a product manager at a fintech startup in Seattle. We had a house in Bellevue, a Tesla in the garage, an Armani suit that still fit, and what I thought was a partnership built on trust. She, Claire, was the kind of woman who could sell a lie like it was couture. "You're too stupid to even see what's coming," she'd said one night, laughing as she swiped my corporate card for another surprise dresser set. "By Christmas, I'll be sipping champagne in Tuscany with your money." We'd been married for 7 years. Anyone who's been through divorce knows the fear, not just of losing a person, but of losing identity, stability, the way your life is organized. I remember thinking I could handle whatever she wanted. I remember naive confidence. I remember being blindsided. The first hint that something was off came 3 months before she filed. I noticed small charges on our joint credit card. $2,400 at Neiman Marcus, $980 at Chanel, $11,000 to a private jeweler in downtown Seattle. Small, relative to our life, but the pattern was wrong. She'd always loved nice things, sure, but this wasn't her style. She had no financial independence, no career, and suddenly there were curated purchases shipped to different addresses. "She's buying stuff for friends," Claire said when I asked. "You're being ridiculous." But then I found a Ring doorbell video from the second address. An expensive delivery. 2 men carrying a white box in and a distinctive orange ribbon. That footage was the first proof. I kept looking. What happened next changed everything. I tried talking to her. I tried to work it out. She cried, then laughed, called me controlling. "I don't owe you an accounting of my life," she said. "I just want to be happy." Her eyes were pools of practiced sorrow. You won't believe what I found next. 47 deleted messages in her iCloud backup. 47 messages that she thought she'd erased forever. Each one a breadcrumb trail with names, amounts, and dates. "Hold for 3 days. Drop at storage number 4, one said. 200,000 into the art account. Tonight, another read, "E is clueless. We move after the mediation." It was like opening a puzzle box. That's when I realized. I told my friend Mark over beers. She didn't just want a divorce. She wanted to destroy me. "Are you gonna let her?" Mark asked. "Dude, she's literally counting your money before the divorce is even filed." I almost did. For 2 weeks, I sat on it, paralyzed. Anyone who's been gaslit knows that feeling. Your perception bending under someone else's insistence. Was I paranoid? Was I invading her privacy? Was I crazy? But then the numbers started to make a pattern I couldn't ignore. There were transfers, Venmo, Zelle, wire transfers to a company called Seabreeze Holdings LLC with no public footprint, a PayPal account that routed to a crypto wallet, a string of cashier's checks deposited into a friend of a friend's account. "Asset transfer," said the accountant I emailed at midnight. "This is sophisticated." I hired a private investigator, Lara, who ran deep searches, and smiles slowed me through each revelation. "People like her," she said, "they buy narratives. They manufacture sympathy, and then they move money." Lara found storage units in Renton, a storage unit in Bellevue with shipping labels, and a receipt from a luxury concierge service that had organized purchases totaling $2 million over 18 months. $2 million. I said it out loud 3 times, because numbers are how betrayal becomes real. 2 years of lies, the investigator said, tapping the spreadsheet. 2 years, 2 million, dozens of transfers. Have you ever felt your whole past compress into a single figure, and then shatter? I showed my lawyer, Margaret Chen, a force of nature who'd been practicing family law for 3 decades. Margaret is the kind of lawyer who smiles like a shark when the facts line up. "This is the most sophisticated asset protection I've seen in 30 years, she said. "But we can use it. Let her feel like she's winning. The best revenge is always served ice cold." "But how do we prove intent?" I asked. "She cries in court. She'll say the purchases were gifts. She'll say the accounts aren't hers." "Follow the money," Margaret said. "Subpoena banks. Get forensic accounting. Don't confront her directly. Let her think she's untouchable." We started gathering evidence. We subpoenaed Wells Fargo, Chase, and the merchant records from luxury retailers. We filed discovery requests, depositions, and a motion for expedited document production. The legal maze was exhausting. For every document we got, something else would be redacted, names crossed out, shell companies hidden behind other shell companies. 3 times the plan seemed like it might fail. First, Claire's lawyer, a polished man named Bennett, filed a motion to quash several subpoenas. "Privacy violation," he said. "This is harassment." The judge granted a temporary stay. My stomach dropped. For 3 days, it felt like we were punched back into helplessness. Second, Claire closed 2 of the storage units and moved the contents to unknown addresses. We raced against the clock and lost the trail for a week. We couldn't find the shipping manifests. I remember thinking, maybe she's already moved everything out of state. Maybe it's done. Third, someone, probably Claire, managed to have an encrypted backup of her phone. The 47 messages weren't easy to access anymore. We hit a dead end in forensics, and this case could have been over. But then, a small win. A cashier at a boutique in downtown Seattle remembered seeing a woman return 3 boxes to a concierge, holding a name tag that matched Seabreeze Holdings. The concierge's private logs, which we subpoenaed, had timestamps and a concierge signature. That gave us a foothold. We also had a Ring doorbell video from our own house. It showed Claire walking out at 3 a.m. with a duffel and a GPS ping on her phone showing movement to Renton. Her excuse would have been plausible if we hadn't also found receipts showing overnight shipping to Renton storage units the next morning. There were patterns, and patterns are hard to explain away with crocodile tears. What happened next felt like watching a slow-motion wreck. In depositions, Claire maintained performance. "I don't remember that," she said, or "that charge must be a mistake." She cried often, and the court reporter transcribed every sniffle. It was theater, and we had to be patient audience members until the final act. You might be wondering, wasn't there a prenup? No, we didn't have one. She convinced me it wasn't necessary. Looking back, that was a red flag I failed to notice. Have you ever skipped something because someone told you it would be fine? We kept finding more. A Chanel receipt for $88,000. A Rolex for $27,500, a custom art commission for $310,000 labeled as investment, and wire transfers that fit no legitimate profile. There were purchases I didn't even know existed, a private shopping experience at Neiman Marcus that cleared $140,000 in a weekend, and a $60,000 interior design deposit at an Aspen property she told me we wouldn't be able to afford. She'd put on a life I couldn't see, funded by money she was systematically siphoning out of our accounts. "You can't cry your way out of this," Margaret told me one night. "You have to break her story." Little did Claire know, we had a strategy to do exactly that. And our secret weapon wasn't just bank records, it was people, witnesses, the concierge, the boutique cashier, the driver who'd logged apps for the overnight moves, human record keepers who remember faces and routines. The day of the hearing arrived. The courtroom was a chilly room with fluorescent lights and the low hum of air conditioning. Claire arrived with perfect hair, a tissue, and the practiced fragility of someone who'd been rehearsing. She took a breath and said, in a voice soaked in sorrow. "Your Honor, I just want to be safe. I have no assets, no income. He controlled everything. I'm scared for my and the kids' future." "You're too theatrical," Bennett mouthed to her once. But the room bought the show. The judge, a woman with an old-school gavel and no patience for nonsense, nodded and leaned forward. The judge asked for financial disclosures. Claire's lawyer presented a stack of pages. It was theatrics. "We have nothing," they said. "We are penniless." She bowed her head and cried again. The judge sighed and asked for specifics. Then Margaret stood up. "Your Honor, with the court's permission, we have evidence that contradicts that narrative." She slid a USB drive across the counsel table. "This is merchant data, shipping manifests, and witness statements. We believe this shows a pattern of asset diversion and undisclosed purchases, totaling approximately $2 million over 18 months. That's when Claire's smile faltered. "That can't be right," she whispered. Bennett started bargaining. "Objection. Relevance." But the judge said, "I'll review it." The judge plugged the drive into the courtroom computer. We had printed key pages. Page 1 was the Neiman Marcus transaction list. Page 2 was the concierge log with the Seabreeze signature. Page 3, and this is the moment I'll never forget, was a ledger from Seabreeze Holdings LLC showing orders, shipping addresses, and amounts. It was all there. $2 million in retail purchases, cashier's checks that matched deposits, and transfers to an artwork account in her name. "According to this disclosure," the judge read slowly, "there are transactions attributed to the respondent totaling $2 million routed through Seabreeze Holdings LLC and 2 storage units in Renton and Bellevue. Miss Claire Harris, your sworn statement was that you have no access to significant funds. Can you explain these transactions?" The room went silent. Claire's mascara had been a camouflage. Now her face looked incandescent, not with tears, but with anger. For the first time, the performance slipped. "Those are gifts," she said. "Friends helped me. My sister." "Who paid the cashier's checks?" Margaret asked. "Who owns Seabreeze Holdings?" Claire's face changed. I don't know," she stammered. "They were supposed to be investments." I could hear my own voice, but it felt far away. "This is everything we've been saying." Then a new piece of evidence slid across the table. Footage from a security camera at the storage facility. It showed Claire with 2 men, carrying 4 distinctive orange boxes into unit number B12. She led them through the gate with a fob that logged her entry. The fob was registered to her phone number. The clerk testified that she'd signed for a multi-box delivery the same week she texted a friend, "Drop everything at Renton. We move Sunday." There was nowhere left to hide. The judge's face was unreadable for a beat. Then, something happened I didn't expect. The judge's expression softened, but not with sympathy. It was like she was peeling a mask off. "Miss Harris," the judge said, "the court views this as a serious attempt to conceal marital assets. Misrepresentation in discovery is sanctionable." She tapped the printed merchant list. "You cried in this courtroom today to paint a picture of victimhood. The evidence indicates otherwise." Claire began to cry harder, but these were different tears, real panic. "Please," she said, voice cracking. "I didn't think it would matter. I needed a way out." "That's not for this court to decide," the judge replied. "But it is for this court to remedy the concealment. Mr. Cole, you will be granted an order for immediate forensic accounting. Miss Harris, you are ordered to produce all assets, disclose all accounts, and answer under oath. Failure to comply will result in contempt." "You're going to take everything," Claire whispered to me as we left. It wasn't bravado, it was a plea. I remember thinking then, she looked small. She looked like someone who'd been stripped of performance. "I sat there listening to her plan my destruction in our own kitchen," I said later in a deposition, and it felt like an admission and a release. But the story wasn't over. 3 more times it looked like she'd slipped through. First, after the order, Claire tried to transfer $200,000 to an offshore account through a cryptocurrency exchange. Margaret moved preemptively, getting an emergency freeze on pertinent accounts. The transfer stalled at the exchange due to compliance flags. We caught it with minutes to spare. Second, a witness, the boutique cashier, received a threatening voicemail. She recanted a bit under pressure. For a terrifying week, her testimony wavered. I felt sick. We arranged for police documentation and protection. The cashier came back stronger and testified again under subpoena, saying, I was scared, but it was her. She paid in cash and then returned boxes to a courier. Third, during an interim hearing, the judge considered granting Claire temporary spousal support based on her tearful plea. If that happened, I'd be paying into an account she could still divert. Margaret argued with the steadiness of someone who'd seen too many games. Your Honor, with all due respect, awarding temporary support here before a forensic accounting would be allowing the concealment to continue. We cannot permit continued dissipation. The judge sided with us. That was the small win we needed to prevent further hemorrhage. Finally, the forensic accounting was brutal but decisive. We found receipts hidden in digital trash folders, shipping manifests, and invoices through that concierge. We found an art commission labeled as investment that was a private commission only Claire could have arranged. We found 2 storage units packed wall-to-wall with couture, a Rolex collection, and, somehow, a custom Hermes wardrobe with price tags still attached. The total? $1,987,346 in tangible goods, plus $12,654 in miscellaneous transfers. Round it, and you get $2 million. We took pictures. We have the screenshots if you don't believe me. On the final day of the hearing, the judge read the report aloud. The courtroom was a crucible. Claire attempted to break down again, but the judge called for order. Ms. Harris, she said, this court finds that you intentionally concealed marital assets totaling approximately $2 million, as documented in the auditor's report. You will be ordered to return those funds to the marital estate, and you will be sanctioned for discovery abuse. Furthermore, I'm referring the matter to the county prosecutor for potential criminal contempt proceedings. There was a collective intake of breath. Claire's shoulders sagged like a puppet cut from strings. Bennett looked like he'd swallowed gravel. What are you going to do to me? Claire asked, and for the first time I heard fear, not performance. Court orders, the judge said. Forensic turnover, monetary sanctions, and referral. If you refuse, expect contempt. As we left, people said things. You okay? Old colleagues asked in the hallway. You handled that well, Margaret said, putting a hand on my shoulder. The victory felt complicated. I hadn't wanted to strip her of everything, but anyone who had watched those texts, 47 deleted messages, the concierge logs, the transfers, could see there was a pattern of premeditation. She had lied and planned. Was I wrong to pursue every cent? Some people have messaged me since, saying, you were harsh. You could have let it go. Tell me I'm not crazy for what I did next. I prosecuted the concealment, yes, but I also pushed for counseling for our kids and insisted the judge set up supervised return of items for the kids' toys that were mistakenly included. 6 months later, Claire was caught in a sting when she tried to fence some Hermes items online. The prosecutor filed contempt. She got probation and an order to liquidate many of the concealed goods back to the estate. She moved out of the house and started from scratch in a 1-bedroom in downtown Seattle. I saw her once, folding clothes behind a boutique counter in Bellevue. She was quieter, smaller. And me? I did what anyone who'd been destroyed and then vindicated does. I rebuilt. I sold the house, kept the Tesla, and started a consulting role at a smaller firm. I met Sarah, a patent attorney from a mutual friend, who laughed when I told her I was technically broke. A man who can orchestrate something that sophisticated is never really broke, she'd said. She became my partner, not in money, but in rebuilding trust. Here are 3 facts that still make my skin crawl. 47 deleted messages preserved in iCloud backup, $2 million in undisclosed purchases, and 2 years of lies. Those numbers are ugly but honest. Anyone who's been through a divorce knows there are ugly gray areas. People hurt. People break. But there's something righteous about accountability. She cried in court, real tears. But the judge discovered her secret, and the truth came out. The law isn't about punishment for punishment's sake. It's about facts, disclosures, and fairness. Would you have done anything differently? If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Would you have hired a PI? Would you have let it slide? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Some people will say revenge isn't the point. Others will say I took pleasure from her being exposed. The truth is messier. I wasn't trying to ruin her life. I wanted what was fair and transparent. Do you think the judge was too harsh? Was the criminal referral warranted? What would you have considered as punishment or rehabilitation? A few things I learned. Document everything. Don't assume trust should replace written agreements. A prenup is uncomfortable to talk about, but it's not about distrust. It's about clarity. If you notice small red flags in your spending patterns, follow the money. We all deserve to be protected from clever manipulation. Little did I know when I first saw the $2,400 charge at Neiman Marcus that a full theater of deception was waiting behind a tissue box and a practice sob. Looking back, I can see the signs I missed. The late-night texts, the complaints when I suggested we get a prenup, the way she deflected conversations about money. We've all been in relationships where we ignore a quiet drip until the basement floods. So what now? The judge's orders stood. The assets were sold back into the marital estate. Claire served probation and had to attend financial counseling and restitution payments. I started a support group for men and women who'd gone through similar deceit, to talk about money and manipulation without shame. What would you have done if you found 47 deleted messages and 2 million reasons to be suspicious? Would you confront? Would you collect evidence quietly and let the law do the talking? I want to hear your take. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? Drop your answer in the comments. And if you want to hear more stories of justice served, subscribe and hit that bell. I've got dozens more like this one.